So that really triggered me to start thinking about the pros and the cons. Should I do it? Should I not do it? And, whether I was the right person to do it. It's the right time, the right place, the right people.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Plus Three. Stu Cube made us famous. What can I say? I'm Matt Rosman, joined by John Epley with special guest and founder of the PSL, the Premier Speedcubing League, Michael Chai. John, Michael, how are you guys doing?
Good, good.
I'm doing good.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Don't mention it. It's a lot of big stuff that's happening that we're going to get into, and a lot of stuff that I want to ask you about. And probably, I'm kind of, the mouthpiece of the people. That's a lie. I'm gonna ask questions that no one else has any remote interest in because I'm a terrible
Hey,
host.
feel free. Go for
Um,
it. I love it.
but yeah, John, you're looking very professional today, John. You're looking very like, you've pulled up to the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I mean, one of us has gotta be professional. We got a little bit of yin, a little bit of yang. So,
Mm.
you're the salt to my pepper.
Yeah, yeah, certainly one of the metaphors to use there. Um, but yeah, I will say, with a lot of the stuff that's been going on, with the PSL rollout, I've personally been very excited for it. So I guess we're just gonna jump into it. Just Michael, take me. Let's just start at the start. Where does this idea come from? And what was the process of developing it and releasing it and debuting it?
Yeah, so to answer your question, to start off with the idea is not new. I think when you talk to a lot of people in the community, this idea has been circling around for a long time, and by no means do I own it. I just think about it much like anyone else does. So it's been around even before when Red Bull was a thing, when people wanted to see if they could get a big company involved and really see where professional cubing could really go. Um, Now there was a lot of issues with that attempt. I do think that that was a great learning experience, but it was really just about uh, wanting to see that sort of come to life, but doing it better. So late last year, right, 2024, I was approached with an idea that I was really interested in, and I thought it'd be a good idea to pursue it. Um, but obviously, there was some background stuff that I had to make sure that we needed to take care of, just logistical things, right? That things could make the PSL not be ready to announce, or could be ready to announce stuff like that. Um, but essentially, it was just capturing an idea and doing things to make it happen, putting in the legwork. It's been a frantic 2025 for me to personally.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
how something I'm most interested in is just the bravery it takes to launch an idea like this. I mean, I have been a part of the Cuban community since I was in middle school, I believe, and I mean to be quite frank, it's not always the most welcoming community. I mean, if you come up with an idea that's not part of the status quo, people love to give you their opinion, and so something like this, you're going to hear a lot of opinions, and I'm sure you already have. So um, personally, I'm curious, what made you feel so confident um, to risk so much? Like, what made you confident this is the right idea, the right time, and you're the right person to lead the way and pioneer it?
Well, to answer your last question first, I don't know if I'm the right person to lead it, but I do have conviction in execution, and I do have a philosophical belief that it's better to try something and fail than to rather never really see it through, right? I think that's something that a lot of people can learn. Um, and it was really just, identifying like what the risks were versus what the outcome could be. The whole reason why I think this is really important right now and why I think this is the right time. Um, this is comparing and contrasting a little bit with what I mentioned with Red Bull. For the high level cubers, it has become a theme conversing with high level cubers that they were looking for just a little bit more. Um, I think you can probably see that with the rollout of a lot of cubing courses, right? And by all means, all power to them, right? And it goes from anyone super fast to content creators, and it's really they have a specific skill set, and they're looking to make a living off of it, right? So when I was seeing like habits like that come into fruition, and just the general chatter of looking for a higher level experience, um, it was the right time because I knew the right people that would be affected would support the project. I think at the time with Red Bull, it was too early for its time because I don't think enough of the high level crowd was looking for it yet. And I think that was a big deal. Of course, there was a lot of execution errors too. But the overall vision, it was kind of too soon for its time because the people it was trying to serve, they didn't want it yet. And I think now it's something that people want. Um, I don't want to speak for all high level cubers, um, but I guess for the sake of the PSL right now, current state, I'm referring to 3x3. I'm telling you right now, I'm pretty sure there's people who are in three blind or 4x4 who would love to, be professionals, make a full-time job, like living, right? It exists in a lot of spaces, whether or not people want to talk about it or not. So that really triggered me to start thinking about the pros and the cons. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Uh, and then, whether I was the right person to do it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it's the right time, the right place, the right people.
Yeah, I guess it kind of leads me into my next question, which is, the announcement of the PSL has been a pretty big thing. Um, how have you kind of handled the response so far to it? I mean, we're only what that launch was just a few
Mm,
days ago at this point, so we're in the Paleolithic stage, if you will, of the Premier Speedcubing
yeah.
League. But how have you handled the response to it so far, both the good and the bad? And has it been what you've expected?
Again, I'm just answering your questions backwards. Yes, it's about as expected. I would say that, I've received a lot of positive responses and definitely some criticisms, and you know what, some fair criticisms as well. Um, And I really think that part of it is being able to share, everything and what it's about, and really answer, questions. So coming on platforms, answering questions, I think is really important to people, um, which is, part of the reason that I'd love to come on here right now. As far as handling the responses, I don't think people realize this, but I think when people expect a project to come to life, they're very, very, they're yearning for a project that will not change, right? So for example, when you launch, you go live, there's no hiccups. And the reality is, it doesn't have to be that way, right? A lot of times when you launch, like, I don't know, let's say you launch some software, there's always going to be a debugging period. So my philosophy is continuous improvement, right? So that's where the negative feedback is actually really important, right? If there's criticisms that, maybe let's say are true, then I need to look at it. And let's say if there's criticisms that they just didn't have the information on, well, I can share it. So little stuff like that. And I think that's really important. And it's a really, really important learning lesson that every single person should follow continuous improvement. And you know what? It's okay. The project is not complete. It's not meant to be complete. It's meant to be shared with the world. And we're growing it together.
And as you go on this journey and you start this journey with the community, um, ideally this is going to grow and grow and grow. So, as of right now, our target audience, or the audience that's here, is more into the sport. But as we hopefully get bigger with it, we're gonna see more people that are loosely related to the sport. Like I watch the NFL, I watch the Super Bowl, but I never really played any organized football or anywhere close to it. So as the sport grows, we'll see more of that. So how how do you hope to bring in our community and keep them involved and have them be a part of this growth, but then also transition it into something that will bring in the general public as well?
Yeah, so I think that's really where I think there's a lot of opportunity to work together on this. Part of the reason the PSL, you know, is working on something that's non-WCA is because the WCA is really good at what it does, right? We think the WCA honestly is about to reach perfection on what it means to be grassroots WCA, to serve your local community in a lot of respects, right? But we understand the struggle with being flexible, right? And that's not their fault, right? And that's where we're taking on this exploratory phase on, how we can connect to the mainstream audience. Um, so, let's just give a hypothetical scenario. Let's say that, suddenly there's 100,000 people in in the United States just kind of capturing this one specific event. And look, that's a pipe dream, right? Like we would all love that, but it's a pipe dream. But the similar concept with how like the Queen's Gambit really took to popularity. Well, when people get inspired and they pick up a cube, when you meet a cuber, when they are gifted a cube from the subway, stuff like that, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go find a WCA competition, right? And we can do a better job of supporting that. And it's just a different way to support grassroots WCA by getting more eyes on it. We don't expect a brand new person to be in the PSL, right? We expect someone who's an enthusiast to be in the PSL, but we believe that people of all nature should be in the WCA. So when the mainstream audience is hit, everyone eats, and that includes the grassroots community. And I think, that's part of my objective here. I want everyone to thrive.
Yeah. Well, I guess now that we've kind of introduced everything here, and kind of brought everything in, I do want to. I will say, even though I'm a proud member of Speedcubing TV, the official broadcasting partner of the PSL. I have some things that I want to bring to the table that I have concerns about, or maybe not concerns. I mean, some concerns, some just
Let's have a
explanations.
conversation.
Let's have a
I
conversation. Yeah.
I yeah, I want to first start by asking you. I want you to explain the format. I want you to explain how it works because I'll be honest, when I initially saw the rollout on this channel and on Stu's channel and even going to the website, it maybe it's just my underdeveloped brain,
Oh,
but it did take me a
yeah.
little bit of time to understand the format and put everything together. Um, so just as a clear explanation, how is the PSL going to
Sure.
work?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and explain that. And by the way, before I get into all of this, just wanted to point out, part of our rollout is actually releasing the rules and regulations, right? Of course, people want to know the rules and regulations, which is what you're asking right now. At the time of what this video is posting, uh, the questions might have already been answered. So just wanted to put that out there. But for you, it's a very valid question because a lot of people are asking, what the heck is this format? Well, it's just one of those things. The planned rollout was about right now, this day. So the way that it works is an open, we have two styles of competitions, and we're going to talk about one of them right now because the second style is something I'm exploring in the future. The first style is an open competition. That open competition right now is a 32 or 64 person double elimination bracket. To explain loosely what a double elimination bracket is two people are going to be matched up against each other. One person wins, one person loses. In a double elimination bracket, that person that loses has an opportunity to go against someone else who has recently lost. Then they can get an opportunity to make it back to the grand finals of the bracket, which is where the last person standing is. So that's essentially what a double elimination bracket is, in a sense that you lose, you have to lose twice to be knocked out. Long story short. In terms of each individual match, we are going to be varying different amounts of wins and sets that are needed to win a match. So we're going to set a best 3 out of 5 for matches. Basically, the first person to win three solves. And we're exploring different amounts of sets that you need to win in order to win the entire match. And that will change per organization team, and that will change as it as you progress through the bracket in itself from 64 people down to the last person standing. So to talk about a simple version of that, best 3 out of 5, first to two sets. So let's say you and I, Rosman, were competing. Uh, I beat you 3 solves to 0 solves. We don't need to do the last 2 solves. So I won the first set. Let's say you beat me 3 solves to 2 solves. Um, then you win the second set. So we need to have a tiebreaker set. Well, it's not a tiebreaker. It's just a third set that is a non-necessary set. So let's say I win that one 3 solves to 1 solve, then I win 2 sets to 1, and then I advance in the bracket. So we're mimicking some esports styles. A really popular one that people might know is Super Smash Brothers. Um, that style of competition, head-to-head format. And rather than counting like an average, we're counting wins and losses. So it doesn't matter that you got a 17-second solve. It just matters if you won or lost, essentially.
Right. I first, thank you for the explanation. Just, it does clear things up, and I'm sorry for pushing you. When you're saying that you got the rules and regulations
Oh,
covered.
no, no, no.
I was not aware of that. But I think, given some of the concerns raised by members of the community, I do think that it's helpful to hear it kind of broken down, in a more concrete way. I know, obviously, like, you're still getting stuff up, so like with the website, eventually, like, when do you see that? When do you see like the website getting like fully developed? This is just like a side
Yeah,
thing.
so like the website, I think there's a lot of key things that we want to add. Do I think it's perfect? No. Um, Really my focus is a combination of functionality and visual appeal, and I think both could be improved upon. Um, but there's always going to be something to add and improve as we have a lot of websites that we can refer to that could always be added or improved on, right? Um, but what I would say is like core things, really throughout this entire month, we're adding things, and that's actually part of our announcement process. Um, but don't apologize at all. Like the reason why I think this is a fair question is because many other people have this same concern. Why would I buy a ticket if I don't even know what format it is, right? And totally valid, right? Uh, just so happens that this was my plan, and I know people are impatient and they want to know more, and that's totally okay, right?
Yeah, and maybe let me know if this I'm explaining this or if I'm hearing this right, but it sounds like a part of this is you don't want to come out and you don't want to say this is exactly who we are and what we're going to be, because at the same time you need to be a little bit flexible with the community. So, I mean, obviously you have to put together some level of structure before you launch, but at the same time, you got to be able to adapt. So, it'd be hard to really come out with the entirety of exactly what you'd be before you tell everybody about it.
Yeah, essentially. And it's also, I realize for cubers, this is like the last problem because I think cubers, we take in information really well. It was part of me just making sure I do like a continuous rollout of information, right? Having everything plastered all on like one, not spreadsheet, but like everything is just there, right? Um, it's just a lot of information, right? It's a lot of information, so it's a slowly but surely gonna roll everything out. And obviously there's more and more plans along the way. But if you're curious about timeline specifically, most of the information that we have to share that we haven't shared yet is just being rolled out throughout the coming month and less than that month. I would say 2 or 3 weeks from the day of recording.
Awesome. And like what else are you still developing that maybe someone watching could be a part of? I mean, are you still looking for other competition venues and organizers? Are you still looking for staff members? Are you still looking for input on format? I mean, what should people give some opinions on?
Yeah, so correct me if I'm understanding your question correctly. So, like, are you asking me if there's something that the people have been wanting that I haven't necessarily like talked about yet?
No, how can people get involved? So I mean, people that are
Oh,
watching this, is there maybe people can say, "Oh, I want this to happen in my area. I have a venue," or what
oh,
kind of input are you looking for currently that people could give and help grow together?
yeah. So, funny, we're actually setting up a method of feedback loop that I've always struggled with in um, a lot of organizations that I worked with. I felt like a feedback loop was pretty difficult. So what you'll see is it's a very sly addition to the website, is we've rolled out a work with us tab, and that's where we're going to have uh, time limited assignments for lead organizers in specific regions that we're looking for. So we're looking for currently regions to organization teams to develop the Northeast, the Southeast, the South, and maybe, another area we're open to, but essentially we're opening up our version of job applications for time limited assignments. And that's specifically for lead organizers right now. So if people want to get involved with that, we can definitely, take a look at that tab. And as far as like if they want to be involved in the PSL itself, that's actually why the tab is there. Um, Over time, as we grow, inevitably there will be a gap in what we're capable of executing as a PSL team. It's a very small team. Um, so, we'll probably have job postings there to make sure that we can get the work done in the most efficient manner. Um, but yeah, if you take a look at the website at this time, I think by the time that people listen to this, they might not even realize it. But if you want to help, that's where we're asking for help.
Now, I do want to raise like one point of concern,
Sure.
um, and it's something that I'm gonna do a bit more respectfully than some of the responses that I've seen.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm not gonna mention names, but so I will say, you're saying jobs and job postings, but let's get real here. Um, do you have any idea? Because either you're going to rely on
Hmm.
volunteers, or do you have any idea in the future? Because again, we're 4 days into this being a thing. We're still very early. What do you expect for the compensation of the people who are going to help on these events? Do you think that's something that realistically will be possible, or is it going to be a very volunteer driven thing, but still having like where the only payment is cash prizes for the competitors?
Man, I hate to break it to you, Rosman, because that was such an elegant question, but I have a very straightforward answer. Yeah, they're all paid.
They oh, so they are. Well, can you expand on that a little bit? Can you expand on
Sure.
how, like, just to make it very clear, because there were concerns initially that you know maybe that the PSL would be relying on volunteers and piggybacking off of the work of volunteers, to paraphrase a quote, um, piggybacking off volunteers to try and make something out of it rather than whatever, and like piggybacking off free labor basically to
Yeah,
make money. So I just want you to clear up everything and be clear and concise about how compensation is going to work and what you know like what kind of team you think you're going to be working with. I mean, you're talking about job postings, you're talking about things that would essentially function like people who would function as like delegates,
hmm,
and like that sort of thing, or is it something
yeah. I
different?
guess I'll get a good. I was looking for like a sound bite, but I can elaborate. No worries. Okay, sounds good. Uh, so, um, to clarify, uh, these are contracted assignments, right? They're limited assignments for a specific amount of work. This is what we're going to do. Essentially, when we break down a budget of what's possible, the PSL and the organization team, we work together on compensation, and we have those conversations with the organization teams. As far as the job postings, we're looking for a leader first, and that leader is able to bring in their core staff team. Um, and yes, they're all compensated. But that's, a direct conversation with the PSL and the organization team. But no, also philosophically speaking, we don't believe in using volunteers at this juncture of what we're trying to accomplish here. I think there's a right place to do that. But when I said it was the right time to do something, what I also meant is there's a lot of organizers that are tired of working for free. And that's just how it is, right? Do I think we're loaded with money? No. Like that's not at all what I'm implying. I can't make someone like I can't give someone a Mercedes because they organized a PSL competition. Of course not. Um, but we don't believe philosophically that volunteers should be the backbone of the PSL.
Okay.
If any,
That's
if
all. I just wanted to
anything,
clear that up.
yeah, I guess if anything, maybe I'm volunteering. But that,
Absolutely.
The head of the company is volunteering. Yeah.
well, if you think about it from a practical level, if you're funneling money in a lot of different directions, that's actually the only way that's possible. Like, I can't do this alone. That's quite honestly the truth. There's no way you can do something alone. So everyone else gets to eat before I do.
Yeah. I was gonna ask something, but I realized John already wrote it down. Um, the other question that we were talking about before. Um, if you want to talk about that, John, or if you want to ask that, or do you want me to take that?
What are we talking about?
Well, I guess I'm taking the fall. Uh, so one of the biggest concerns that has been raised among in the response is ticket
Hmm.
prices, and specifically, we wanted to ask why is it first? Well, maybe we can split this into two questions. So first, we need to think about and ask why are the tickets so expensive and like entry fees so expensive as compared to a WCA competition, and then second off, why is it that minor tickets are more expensive than adult tickets in a market which, whether we like it or not, is driven by younger
Hmm.
solvers and really younger fans of the sport.
Good question. Uh, from my pulse, oh, that is sorry, Rosman, I think your mic's going crazy there. But from my understanding, let me think about this. I'll answer the hotter topic first, and it could not be the hotter topic, but from what I believe, I'll address the minor ticket prices first. So the first thing that I want to address is the minor ticket is more expensive than the 18 plus ticket, right? And the reason is because we believe that minors should always be accompanied by the guardian at all times. Um, the unfortunate reality is for the PSL, in order to budget, is that we're charging for every person in this space, and that includes spectators. So essentially, if there is a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old or even a 16-year-old, and they're registering alone, we're not okay with it. Long story short. And we can answer that question very simply with what if something happens to them, right? And I don't want to be that guy, but take a read at our code of conduct and you'll see where my morals stand and why that's so important to me. Um, but yeah, long story short, I'd rather, it's cheaper than if you did a regular ticket plus a spectator ticket because a guardian, it should be cheaper, right? Because in no circumstance am I ever going to incentivize a competitor to register without a guardian. That's pretty much it. And the unfortunate reality is like, yeah, every guardian, every spectator, every person who's in that room, uh, that takes up a lot of space in the venue, and we have to accommodate for that in the budget. So that's sort of the truth of the matter, but it's rooted in never having minors be alone.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
on the other part of that question was ticket pricing, and so I pulled up the Premier Speedcubing League website here just to maybe give a more
Oh
informed
yeah, yeah,
question.
yeah.
So it looks like we have at least at this is the San Diego competition. We have 3 levels. Just a spectator pass, which I assume just gets you in the room. And then 2 levels of competitor pass, the minor and the 18 plus. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Um,
Hmm.
but what I'd like to know a little bit more about is the VIP part. You can pay $35 to get in the door, or you can pay $65 for VIP. What does that look like? Because I think there's a lot of people that have no problem spending money going to a WCA competition or have no problem investing in the sport. There's really not a whole lot more they can get from it. When if you go to a WCA competition, everything is nonprofit, so they don't really add any frills that might cost money. So it's usually very bare bones. You pay for your solves. So with VIP, I expect you kind of get more. So could you maybe elaborate on what people would expect and the experience that that they're going to be provided?
Yeah, so the first thing is obviously the ticket does entail the differences and like all the perks that they have. But what I think is not written, I think everyone understands that, right? I think what's
Yeah.
not necessarily written on there is certain things in terms of like your in-person experience while you're there. For example, one of the things that are going to be implemented, and this is part of I never got to explaining this part, but eventually we will be like when the time comes, when the announcement like properly comes, but making sure we have food available ready at all times for people to just pick up. That's one thing that we can do for our VIPs. That is potentially like something that we can account for in the budget. So there are just options like that that we find that's really important to provide to the VIP. Some athlete all access, right? Like athletes, these days the high level cubers, not all of them like to be belabored like all the time. They need some quiet time, but we can set up like personal like one-on-one time, and we're discussing benefits at all moments that are specific to each organization team to provide a great experience that we announce, right? And like generating partnerships that we're able to provide a service for VIP only guests, right? As far as I don't think I answered the question about the price. So long story short, we're looking to make the budget work. That's really all it is. Because if you think about it, there's probably going to be less people in that room than even a traditional WCA competition, right? That's potentially very likely the outcome. And we're looking to make sure that we can balance that out by providing a premium experience. Do we think we're going to knock it out of the park for the premium experience at first? I hope so, but realistically, like there's always something we can do better. And that's what I'm talking about with like the call outs. Like, yeah, like if people want to see more, like let me try and give them more, right? That's one of those cool things. We're gonna have some like limited edition items that really are only going to be available for certain people. And my favorite one that we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing trading cards that are only available at registration. That's my favorite part only because when I think about the future, just having those items as memorabilia or tradable items is just so interesting to me because there's such a limited supply. But that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and collectibles are
Yeah.
back, dude. Like kids collect prime bottles nowadays. Like, I mean, I was always new
What
to
kid is collecting
the
prime
cool
bottles?
ones,
Yeah.
John, what do you know about cool kids?
dude. I watch Talk Two
Oh,
every week. I've been in shambles. They haven't come out with a new podcast in 9 weeks, so I've been a little in the run.
Oh, wait,
I
really?
guess
You've been
one thing to
keeping
keep in
up?
mind is the premium experience. Part of it is to be there to watch the event. Watching the
Right.
event live, it's not going to be just your head-to-head finals. The lights are going to be dimmed. The music is going to play. They're going to go one at a time. It's going to be a showdown. We want press conferences. It's going to be everything that you want um, in a show, and it's nonstop action, really. Um, that's what we're hoping for, and that's part of even the premium experience of just being able to enjoy the spectacle in your hometown, right? Like when I think about target demographic, I don't necessarily think I don't think someone from the East Coast should travel to the West Coast to go to this event. What I hope that people think about it is like, oh, I have this really cool event near me. Let's go check it out. And when it's not near me, I'm gonna just tune into Speedcubing TV.
Yeah, I have a couple more questions, and I'm probably gonna, it's. I want to ask again about the ticket prices because I want you to try and justify
Sure.
something for me. In sporting events, typically, and really just events in general, ticket prices are, they're typically different because of, I mean, in addition to amenities, where you are in an arena. If I get the nosebleed seats going to a Pistons game, I can get that for $25. If I go courtside, that's thousands of dollars because the value of the game is different at one seating level to the
Hmm.
next. When you are when you are in places like convention centers or uh, basically similar style buildings, and you're not everyone is at the same level in the same room. My question to you is, how do you justify having? Because to me, it just seems like it almost seems like promising, you know, more than what can realistically be delivered for the differences between those ticket prices. I just think it's a valid concern because, uh, again, like the experience doesn't seem to be all that different between, you know, the average Joe who walks in and, a VIP. I know this is a bit of a niche concern, but it makes me think like, what's the point of having those higher ticket prices then,
Well,
other than for generating more
can
profit?
I answer that? Because I can tell you what would make me excited to pay that extra money. Um, like I would want to sit closer. I've been to enough nationals and worlds where I have been lucky enough where I've gotten to sit in the first 5 rows or whatever the staff sits. And I also have had to fight for seats way in the back. And that is worth a lot. I mean, like for a regular spectator pass, $30 for that alone, that's probably worth it. But like there also guys like Dylan and Maddie, it'd be pretty cool to meet those guys and to get their autograph. I'm lucky enough where like through this podcast, like we get access to these guys sometimes, which is really cool and don't want to take for granted. But especially if you're not normally around someone like that and you don't have that access. And I mean, those are just two things alone that would justify the extra, I mean, 30, 15, yeah, 15 extra dollars. I mean, and I got to assume there's more than that too, Chai, if you want to kind of pitch in on other reasons why it might be worthwhile to go for the VIP.
Yeah, so the VIP markup, so essentially it was the extra production costs for the extra swag that you get there, and also the extra services that we do provide throughout the event. One thing I wanted to tell was we looked really deeply into VIP seating, and that was the original plan, but we ran into a hiccup, and I can walk through that hiccup, and this is going to be part of my sharings as a continuous improvement and actually taking feedback and going back to it. The hiccup was we didn't have a way to limit the number of people who purchased a VIP ticket. So what that meant was if we announced and let's say we got 200 VIP tickets, we were screwed, right?
Yeah.
Like how are we going to promise 200 VIP seats with VIP guardians, right? So,
Right.
that's something that I'm exploring even still to figure out how to navigate. But to simply answer your question, Rosman, I have no necessary like reason to believe that people need to purchase the VIP ticket, right? And that's one thing to keep in mind. Like, yeah, feel free to purchase the normal one because what that tells me is there's no value. And then it's my job to figure out how do I provide that value to people to make it worth their while. And it's a free market, right?
Yeah. And then one last thing that I wanted to ask. I want to go back to the minor ticket pricing
Sure.
thing. Or the entry fee, right? Registration. Um, I think you gave a very good corporate answer and a very good. You gave great spin,
Okay.
and I appreciate that because that means you have the instincts to be a ruthless leader.
Sure.
Um, with that being said, though, when you're talking about like, oh, this is where my morals rest, and this is where oh, I just find no logical reason. To me, I understand that it's, oh, you have to register with a guardian, so we're gonna charge you more for that. I But you have to acknowledge the reality here. The reality is cubing is a sport that is most popular and is more and more each day being driven by minors. You cannot, and young people, you cannot
Mm.
ignore that. So sitting here and then increasing the cost to basically the cost is going to go to the parent at the end of the day. Like unless you've got like
This is such a bad
unless
argument.
you've
He
got
decreased the cost because I mean to keep minors safe, you have to have a guardian. That's a rule at a lot of venues alone. So $20 extra
no,
instead of
I
making the guardian
understand that.
spend $35. I You seem pretty riled up. I'm sorry, I just don't quite understand the point. It seems like he's addressing minor safety and actually making it a little bit cheaper for that
Well,
situation.
I can just to interject because I think Rosman does want to hear my response. I
Yeah.
guess my question to you, Rosman, is totally get it. Uh, but if you were in someone else's shoes, if you were in my shoes, for example, a real question I'd ask you is, are guardians free entry?
I think they should be the same price of entry as everyone else. There should just be one entry fee. That's how it is. Now, make sure, obviously, I don't want to sit here and say that minors should be unaccompanied. I think that there should be a guardian present
Hmm.
regardless, as a, you know, but the ticket, sorry, I keep saying ticket. I
It's all good.
apologize. When we're talking about the entry fee,
Yeah.
I think it should just be a flat thing, you know, between everyone. Now, if you want to, if you're a guardian and like not saying that the PSL is going to have this, but if there's like prime rib being served and the Guardian is trying to get a piece of that, like okay, no, then you got to think of then okay, then there's an upcharge going on.
Mm.
But just being there for your kid, you gotta be there. Like you have to be there. It's when you're kind of explaining. I just it's probably my one concern of like how is this going to welcome younger cubers, and especially think about on the parental side of this, like um clarify what is the entry fee for minors? Uh, can you just
Uh, Let me double check real
It's
quick.
95 at San Diego, or it's 75 for a standard competitor.
so
Um,
so it's 90, yeah, so it's 20, so it's $20 more.
Mm.
That cost is going to the guardian. Now there are going to be people, in my opinion, that they're going to see like, oh, what, you want to go to this thing and it's $100 to get in, and you're going to have kids who really want to do this but are probably going to be met with some level of resistance just because the cost is that much. I mean, I don't know if I'm talking crazy here, but I think it's a legitimate concern, both for the business side of it and in the, I guess, the ethical concerns of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I understand uh how it is basically it is an inconsistency, right? So, and I think that's like the big call out that we want to share here. Um, and whether or not they should be the same, I could be swayed one way or the other, right? That's something that is part of one of those things, like, hey, maybe this isn't the right way to do it. Uh, but one of the things is that venues have capacities, and those capacities, you know, for example, let's say we have a venue with a 300 person capacity, right? And you have 100 people, 120 competitors, right? Uh, what happens if we go over capacity? And that's a real concern that you have to have. And in, in a traditional sense, with higher cost of living areas where venues are more difficult to rent out, right? Um, is all of that space free? Like the problem is, yeah, so like we're gonna, provide basic amenities. One of the things that I want to provide parents is I want to give them free coffee all day. That's sort of my goal. Not sure if it's possible, but think definitely gonna try and pull it off because holding around coffee is pretty difficult. Um, but just the cost of space, because that space could have been an extra competitor, someone who actually like wanted to compete. So that's one of the key things, right? So space is valuable in a venue. Um, do I think this is like the best way to do it? I'm not sure. That's why we're trying it out, right? But what I can tell you is the previous models that have been working or not working, Uh, Minors have been unaccompanied all the time. And is that okay?
I mean, I can't say anything on that. I mean, it's
I'll tell you from personal
uh,
experience as a organizer. Parents drop their kids
yeah.
off at the competition. Is that
Yeah, they
okay?
use it as a daycare often.
It is that okay with you?
I mean, I, I'm not going to get into this because I think what we are entering is potentially like too deep for cubing of just like ethical discussions and philosophical discussions, both one way or another. And I don't think that I want to bore people with talking about ethics and and also us talking about the role of parental guardians and being there for a kid when, to my knowledge, none of us have children, and the dog doesn't count and the cat doesn't count.
Yeah. So to loop it back around, like yeah. So like, do I think every registration for every competition is going to be the same? No, absolutely not. And that's part of the feedback approach, right? Like there's a reason why everything every single instance is going to be slightly different because we're going to see what works and what doesn't work. Just to clarify, like, do I think this was how I planned on launching it? Like, yes. Do I think that's the only way to proceed? No. But still has to ring true that whatever we decide to do is in consideration of how minors should be accompanied throughout the entire event. But I mean, I gave you my answer, and I think it's pretty transparent. So I don't know if it's an answer that you can agree with, but that's just what it was. But what I will tell you is I'm always willing to change. Um, and I think that's a really important thing to consider. If something isn't working, why keep doing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, John, I don't know if you've got anything else that you want to say here.
No, I mean, I what I think I'm most excited about is the continued opportunities. So, I mean, when I hear I just hear so many different ways we can grow the community here. So, I mean, there might be someone with access issues where, these tickets are expensive. So, how do we bridge that gap? And I think like Michael has a great opportunity for that, where people can contact and reach out because I know that people like me, and I know Manu's not here right now because he already interviewed Michael, and you should check out that interview on Cubers Live. But I know Manu would also be interested in like how can we find ways to fund these kids to get there. If there's kids that really want to get this experience, I think there's plenty of people that want to make that happen. Sponsors that will come through and will say, hey, we're gonna fund 20 kids to be able to come have this experience and develop. So what I see is opportunities. The WCA is not going anywhere, and we have so many opportunities there, and now we just have so many more opportunities. So, yeah, I guess I don't really have anything specific, but I mean, Michael, I mean, if you could maybe just list a few more um, of things that make you most excited. Like, what are some of the? Of course, we already talked about the opportunity for cubers to stay in the sport and be high level cubers, but opportunities for just everyone else. What are some of the things that you're excited to provide for the community as a whole?
Yeah, so really what I'm excited in providing is being able to see this new opportunity and new way to tell the story of cubing, right? And being able to provide, financial opportunities for organization teams, cash prizes for the athletes, and really being able to connect to the mainstream audience, is really pertinent here, right? And, you know, I guess that's part of the whole ticketing thing too, is, really I'm hoping that people who are not cubers would be interested in purchasing and going to these events one day and being able to see everything that we have to offer. Because for a lot of people, it is a once in a lifetime event, right? And that's something that, I would love to connect the QB community to the mainstream audience to. Um, that prospect really, excites me. Um, I really want to see it flourish. Like, I think it'd be great for what QB is looking for. I think people have been looking for something of this nature. Uh, it's just kind of like an interesting time to sort of see it out. Just exciting to see what happens, essentially. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? Um, but I hope it does, and I think it will. Oh, that's
Are there?
ESPN.
I mean, if it,
Uh
sorry,
oh. What is there a big trade?
I hope not.
no, there's not been a trade. Now I was just gonna say, if it doesn't work, according to someone, you'll see the writing on the wall: cancel all future comps, take the money, and disappear.
Mm,
Uh, but
If it fails, there will be no money to disappear with.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the
If
truth.
it fails, there's no
yeah,
money to
just
disappear with.
bankrupt.
Like,
I'm sorry. That's me trolling. And I'm sorry to you, and I'm sorry to the person whose quote I referenced.
yeah.
You know, is there? We were trying to talk about other leagues and that have kind of tried this. You know, there was GAN SSL, which was kind of its standalone thing, but you know, is there anything else that you kind of have pulled inspiration from? Because we all know the WCA, we know what World's Finals looks like, we know that excitement. But is there anything else that you've drawn from either within cubing or within other sports that maybe cubers can go watch and get excited about?
Mm, sorry, I didn't quite get that question. Could you repeat that?
You know, what are some other points of inspiration? I mean, we all understand the WCA and some inspiration you could pull from there, but like, what are there some other sports that you drew inspiration from, and other organizations that you drew inspiration from that cubers could reference?
Yeah, so it's really a mixture. I think the emotion that I was trying to like tie it to was something in relation to an esports experience and traditional sports experience. When I was thinking about the specific modeling structure, I'm not saying it's anywhere close, but I was drawing inspiration from the PGA. I was drawing inspiration from F1. Um, you might see that kind of come to life a little bit more with like the qualification runs that we do and how F1 have like those trial runs that don't have any, standing in any rankings or results that you have. Um, some inspiration from there. Um, I would say those four things I mentioned are probably sort of what kind of drove me in that direction. If you want to say specific esports, I guess just recency bias. I've just been looking into a lot of Smash Brothers and the stuff they did right. Obviously, they did a lot of stuff wrong too. And my job is to really dissect what was done wrong and see what we can do to improve that.
Awesome. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to just see things progress.
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited as well. Yeah, and I apologize, for my grilling, but it's questions that need to be asked. It's questions that need to be asked, and it's challenges to overcome. And but that with that being said, I'm still really excited to see how this next chapter of cubing unfolds, and whether the next chapter becomes the next volume of the story of cubing.
Yeah.
That was a terrible metaphor. Cut
No,
that
no,
out.
no. I mean, really, you don't apologize. Because what's more important is, uh, I wanted to have an opportunity to be asked questions and to be put on the spot. And I think it's really important, right? I think it's really important that people hear it, directly from me. Um, that everything that's in my thought process, what I'm hoping for, what I think is true, what I think could be better. Um, and it's not about what's working now, it's about what will work in the future. Um, and I want to answer those questions. And there's no reason for you to apologize to ask a question that I'm sure many other people are curious about. And it's feedback, right? It's really important for me to figure out, like, hey, how can I make this better? Because you know what? As much as people like, you know, they can voice their concerns and stuff like that, the thing they really, really hate is, I think when they're ignored. I don't know if that's true or not. I think that resonates with a lot of people that you're just ignored. But I'm here to tell you, you're not being ignored. That's actually the farthest thing from the truth. Um, People think I can't take a little heat. That's really all I do.
I feel like we were gonna enter like a boxing press conference there. People think I can't take heat. You're putting on your the low key McGregor impression.
Oh, Gregor.
Uh,
Okay.
but hey, I feel like we gotta close this thing out. Let's close it out on a bit of a lighter note and on something that I personally think, even with someone with even as someone with like no knowledge of Square One, I think is pretty incredible. So, a couple few episodes ago, we talked about Samir. Samir had a 469 world record Square One average. Absolutely amazing series of solves. Excuse me. And we thought, wow, this is really great. Well, not even a month later, he improved his world record average to 463. Now, I want to break down the times here because the times are really the absolute majesty of this time, or of this average. He starts out with an 808 and then a 620 and then gets three sub fours. Now, I don't know how many of you have been keeping up with Samir this year. Man is on fire. There have been 20 solves in the history of Square One below sub 4. Samir, this year, I believe, has put up, what, 5 solves? Because he had 4 at this comp and then 1 earlier. 5 sub 4 solves. 3 in this average alone. I mean, I think this is just, I know this is more of a niche event, but we might be seeing the start of an absolutely unparalleled run of dominance in this. John, you were getting some insider info from James about it. Can you tell me what you got?
Yeah, James has been hanging out in Florida for 2 weeks, so he's not really paying attention to it. But shout out James. But I mean, I think that the numbers kind of speak for themselves. So he gets world record average. He sets the best average that's ever been done with a 601, 418, 373, 527, 462. So a 64354. I mean, a little all over the place, and that's kind of what Square One does. 469 average. He beats that by 0.06. So maybe same thing happens, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No. 808, 620, and then a 3, a 3, and a 3. You got to watch the video. We'll put it up here. But even Samir is just can't believe it. Like how does this happen? Accounting 6 in a 463 average. Shout out to him for just not giving up. Getting an 8, getting a 6-2, and then just locking in. He starts with an 8 and a 6 and goes, I can sub world record this. Pretty cool.
I mean, that really is locking in. I just want to mention one more thing. The third solve was a non-counting 342. Now, that is 100th of a second off from getting the Square One world record single. So could you imagine that? Just getting the single and the average in the same solve. Again, like you're saying, John, from something that really started in a high pressure situation. Um, I, I, I can only imagine what's coming next. It just seems like Samir is locked in and probably the most locked in Square One solver. Probably we can say he's the best right now. Uh, for someone who contributes as many amazing results as consistently as he does, I think that there's probably no one who's going to be in competition with him unless, Ryan comes out and or even Bendy or Dylan, one of these other US solvers comes out and really retakes it. But right now it's Samir all the way. Michael, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm not a huge Square One enthusiast, so I'm very like surface level on like following Square One, but I do know Samir, and I was also like closely following the battle that has been Samir versus Max Yao for a very long time. Congratulations to Samir. I think he's a phenomenal solver. From what I when I talk to Square One solvers. I think what you say is approximately true in a sense that we're about to see like maybe a huge run of Square One results because Square One has historically been the event where people felt like there was the most room for improvement out of the times. As ridiculous as that sounds, because it's such a fast event, and we might be seeing the beginning of that. You do see that quite often because Square One top solvers tend to shuffle so quickly in their results. Um, but maybe this will be the run that we're looking for from Samir. But um, there's a lot of other top solvers, but I'm sure he's just enjoying the moment for now. So big ups to him.
One of these PNW
Yeah,
guys coming
absolutely.
up with Worlds in Seattle. I mean, I got to imagine that's kind of resparked the competitive
Yeah,
interest.
I'm sure they got a little friendly rivalry over there. So that would be, one day I think it'd be fun to document, their story. Um, I'm sure they could do their own like vlogs and stuff like that. Just like add in some like funny nostalgic music and Samir when he's 10 and Max when he's like 10 is just like I'm gonna be the best square one solver in the world. No, I mean, stuff like that. And I thought that'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Make it like a cartoon.
Yeah.
But uh yeah, absolute big ups. Congratulations to Samir. Best of luck to you continuing on this, massive run of dominance. Uh I think that's probably going to cover it. This is a long, long +3 episode, but we had a lot to talk about. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Do you have any parting words for the audience of Speedcubing TV and also all the new subscribers that came from Stu's video?
Yeah, I hope people enjoy the experience of the PSL. But if there's something you want to see in the PSL, feel free to shoot an email, right? We're always looking for ways to improve the project, looking for ways to, be better. And we're going to be hosting some pretty cool events. I hope you guys tune in to watch, or I hope people are interested in going in person, right? This is going to be the start of something I hope to be magnificent. Um, and it's a path of continuous improvement, as I like to call it.
It sounds, as Matthew Marinick would put it, electric. Michael. Thanks for
Oh,
coming on, John. Uh, you're John, so
Well, I wanted to say also, as Matthew Merrick would say, we'll see you on the other side.
uh,
I didn't even do the outro.
That's the outro. It's done. We're out.
No, 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 no. Okay. Thanks for watching +3, everyone. Like, subscribe, go check out the PSO. Go check out all of Chai's work. Go just if you want to see something in the PSO, comment it down below. Maybe Chai will be reading some of those responses, taking that feedback in. Thanks for watching, everybody. And yeah, as Matthew Marinick would say, we'll see you on the other side.
thanks, guys.